So I want to talk a little bit about more about the portfolio work category that shows up in a grade book and the evidence portfolio that students have to keep throughout the semester. So there's a category in the workbook that's called work or portfolio work that represents all the things that you have attempted to do. But what can get confusing is that you can have really good grades there and yet not have a good grade in the class. But that's because that actually doesn't compute for a grade and it's not what actually matters. Because what actually matters is whether that work demonstrates skills and which skills it demonstrated. So, for example, if you have a test that you have 100% on, that sounds great. But if that's the only time you showed evidence of the content, that is not enough to get a good grade in the class. Because remember, you got to show that consistency to be at a proficient or exceptional levels, right? So, if in fact, if you want to be exceptional, it can't just be on the test. It has to be in a test and in a project, different contexts, right? Or if you're doing this for skill mastery, it has to be across different topics throughout the year, right? In order to for you to actually earn that five, right? So that means that a portfolio category is only there to log how you did on each assignment. And if you did the assignment, but it's not that matters. What matters is what skills that assignment actually represents. So if you only demonstrate mastery once, you're going to get a C, even if you did well on that test, because you didn't do well on other assignments, which are also assessing the same skill, right? That's the idea behind that. Or if you're thinking about it in terms of skill mastery, if you've only done one project the entire year that did a model, you can't get more than a C because you need consistency to get at least a four or a five, right? And so that's why you have to do your work, right, to do this. Now, this work is also represented in the evidence portfolio that students keep. So if you go, for example, on living systems, right, there are multiple opportunities that students have in order to do this. And maybe they didn't do all of them, but in the ones they did, they will get a score. And so if the student started week with a one, then got a two, and on the last three attempts that they did, they actually got threes, that student actually earns a five. Why? Because they did a test and a project, so that's two different contexts showing mastery. That's enough for a five, right? So that's how it works. So your grade book will actually show all of these assignments. But if you didn't do the ones you didn't do, you don't have that missing because class is kind of like choose your own adventure. You don't have to do all the assignments. You have to do enough assignments to show mastery. Now, some of them might be required, and I'll put a missing grade unless you do something else that's an alternative assignment that covers the same thing. And that's kind of to motivate you to actually do it. But it's okay if you didn't do the side quest. It's okay if you didn't do the connections activity. It's okay if you did the project and the quiz, but not the test, if you were trying to demonstrate mastery sometimes, right? It's kind of like a choose your own adventure. You have different options to demonstrate the mastery. You, Now, because of that, some of the assignments in the grade book will have no grades in them because they weren't necessarily required. And even if they are required, you're not going to have a missing grade if you did another assignment that covers the same basis. So that category isn't graded for these reasons. That's why that category gets excluded. And in your portfolio, you will also show why is it that on the category that actually counts, which is the skill mastery or the content mastery, you have the grade you have. So if you look at the skill mastery, you will have a grade there that says functions in earth and living systems, and you would have a five. But if you're wondering, why does the student have a five on this? The portfolio will tell them why. Because they have two threes, one project, one test, different context, that's a five, right? And then on their portfolio category, it will show that they did well on the project and the test. And that's why they got that three, right? So that's kind of how it works. And you're going to understand this better once you actually do it. Well, like with anything else, I can talk and explain up to the wazoo, but it's really doing it that you learn how it works. And so if you have any questions, I'm always available. Just ask. All right. I'm with you guys all every step of the way.